Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's your host of the most, Griever, as always, bringing you guys some more interviews for the Falsebound League, the Falsebound Kingdom League for Yu-Gi-Oh! Falsebound Kingdom. With me today is Alix, one of our duelists, one of the Louisville launchers. Am I pronouncing that correct, Alix?
Yeah, close enough.
Close enough. Or is it Louisville?
It is Louisville, but everybody from around here says it like Louisville because we all talk like we got rocks in our mouth.
Oh, all right. So I pronounced it one way, I tried another way, and it's the wrong way regardless. Either way, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us, how did you first get into Yu-Gi-Oh! And by that proxy, Falsebound Kingdom?
Sure. So I'm Alex. Mostly my presence online before this was like maybe a few randomizers like A Link to the Past, a stream Final Fantasy 14 stuff. But when I was younger and during the height of the GameCube era, I came into this one way or another. Probably looked at it because it had Yu-Gi-Oh! On it and saw that there was a cool edgy card on the back, and I was like, oh, I gotta have it.
Nice.
And I like this game, and I didn't think about it much, but the other day, or, a while back, me and some friends were talking. I'm like, I remember this jank Yu-Gi-Oh! Game that I used to play. It had nothing to do with the actual cards other than the monsters being in it. And so I went and I looked online and whatnot, and I had seen this community just kind of freshly starting up. So I got back in here, and I love it, and I'm relishing the chance to kind of dive into it and see what we can make out of it.
Excellent. That both of those, answers so far. I've only done 2 interviews so far, but both of them are. Most people, I would assume, jumped into the anime,
Yeah.
and then as a result of the anime, wanted to get into the card game. That's 2 answers that so far in these interviews that I have yet to get. I've heard no one speak about. Well, I got into the anime first. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess the next one is, obviously, how did you feel about the draft and your particular draft, and are you confident in your picks?
Sure. So at the time, especially as it was going on, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of sweating, just because, I'm going through these and I'm picking stuff that I like and stuff that I thought that I thought was good, and I'd done just a little bit of research, not in terms of like, oh, I'm gonna have this team right here or nothing else, but just to see what the patch did and kind of see what's what.
Mm-hmm.
And a few of the picks that I got, people would just be like, oh, and I'm like, oh no, like these guys probably have more game knowledge than I do. Like, oh no, like that's not a good sound. But after I went and I threw and I made my teams. I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Good.
I would say that I'm fairly confident, at least that I think I can get through the game for sure. But then obviously the question is who can do it without losing as much,
That is the key. That is the key thing. And once again, just from personal experience, never say that, because I was well on my way to being second place last season, and just one bad mission, and I'm out. So
yeah, I'm nervous to see what the patch is going to throw at us, because I haven't done the patch Kaiba campaign because I wanted to kind of just get surprised by it as we go through this. But
actually, I believe quite a few people held off on playing because I wanted to play it myself, and I know a couple other people did. A lot of people held off on playing it because they wanted the surprise element. I don't know if everybody did, but I know a lot of people did. So
right, and if somebody does, then more power to them. Like that's completely up to them, and I'm not going to be like, oh my god, they cheated, whatever.
Right? Yeah. Of course. Though I will say about your draft, a couple of picks that I personally like, so that you don't, I guess, since you're not so confident. I definitely love the Red Eyes Black Metal Dragon pick.
Yes.
That's a great pick that didn't really get utilized because of Blackthorn's situation last draft, so we don't really know how that got used. I assume, I don't know, but I hope that Mystic Horseman gets paralysis at some point a little earlier than normal.
No.
Oh,
It didn't get moved up to my knowledge, but
Oh man, but paralysis scythe. I mean, it's right there in the name. You
I know.
I know. It should be there. Other than that, I mean, Black Skull Dragon, great pick to be your main monster on Kaiba's team, though. So you do have some viable monsters. Not everything would I pick, but and some monsters are more so. But for nostalgia purposes, I love that you picked Beaver Warrior, Hitatsumi Giant, Reaper of the Cards. There's a lot of love. Winged Dragon.
Yeah. The main thing is, and it's kind of a concern, like a pain point, but it also could be a strong point, is the item RNG that we get. I've got a lot of spellcasters like Kaiser Dragon on Kaiba's team. We don't get spells, then he's just okay. But that could really shine through later. You've got Winged Dragon, his damage is going to fall off, but he's got a lot of AP. He's got the item support. Kaiser comes in with the spell support, and then Kaiba's team persists into late game, and that's kind of what I'm shooting for with a lot of my teams. And if I don't get that RNG, then some of these teams aren't going to do so well. But
that is the crux of it, because last season, I don't know if you know, but I think we mentioned it many times, there was no polymerization to be found.
Right.
So anybody who drafted a poly team was and betted on it was kind of SOL. So
yeah, I know. I was gonna, I'd like to say that I was like, I didn't want to count on that too much, but I know I shot for the Magnet Warriors, but I didn't think I'd get it, but I had to do it. I love them. They're just some little guys,
I mean, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. And I stole your third Magnet Warrior, so.
And I can't blame you. I really can't. I would probably have done the same if I was in your position.
I mean, in all honesty, the only reason I actually took it was not actually to snipe you, just so we're clear.
Right.
My reason to do it was because I realized, oh shit, I don't have a machine type yet. And if we have the opportunity for shock shells, which are broken as far as I'm concerned, I didn't want to be left out of the loop that, everyone else had an easy time in this mission. You added shock shell to this much, I added shock shell. And I'm like, I have shock shells and I can't do anything with them, So I made sure to grab one machine,
Yeah, for sure. And, the thing too is I was worried at first. That was my main concern was, what do I do with Beta and Gamma now that I don't have the Valkyrie in play?
Right.
And putting it with Yakuteno, because she was also like, I know she's good, but I'm like, what do I do with it? What do I do with it? Yeah. And so now I've got, high AP monsters. I've got the team buff if they can live long enough with Yakuteno on Weevil's team, so he prints AP like crazy anyway. Mm-hmm. And, so if I can get that team to 30, then Beta's got the paralysis. Gamma can come in clutch when we fight Bandit Keith with that extra machine damage. And Yakuteno can make up for their okay stats with the team buff. And I think that team can really turn out to be something special out of maybe some hodgepodge that I was left over with, So
Excellent.
I think that's the team that I'm excited to see how it plays the most, just because, I was just like, what do I do with these pieces? And I think it can come together to be something really interesting.
Excellent. Yep. Great answer. So I guess the next one is, how do you feel about everybody else's draft? And I guess in lieu of that, what's your favorite, or what do you think is the best draft, and who is the worst draft?
Sure. Well, I regardless of best and worst, ZZ's he's got the heart of the people with the bugs and the goat and the larva moth goat. Like, I mean, I gotta respect it at the very least.
He did so bad last season. He won by luck alone. There was a point, and he'll upload it, I'm sure, where the enemy had an opportunity to literally make him lose, and they guarded and waited 10 times in a row.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
How many?
I think it was 10 total between waits and guards. They never attacked for 10 turns.
Wow.
And if had they done so, he would have been below 0 points. Now, granted, in the first season, we didn't discuss whether 0 points was a automatic loss or not, but he would have hit 0, had one monster loss, and he had the heart of the cards guiding him, I'll tell you that much.
Wow. Well, I gotta say that I think my actual favorite is the second flock, just because, looking at his teams, it's not what I would normally, I guess, think of in terms of stuff, or maybe while he was doing it, I was like, okay, whatever. But as we were talking about, his Kaiba team, the Summon Skull, the Red Eyes, and the Meteor Dragon, is really genius because it's really good, and then if he gets a poly, it's really good. I mean, you put that poly on Red Eyes, and that team's explosive.
I would argue one fault with this team, however, high power, very low AP. Don't know if they fixed it in the 1.2 balance patch enough, but I remember having like a level 99 Summon Skull, and he didn't exactly have 6 AP points at that point. So I'm sitting there going, all right, it's a great, trust me, I love Summon Skull Red Eyes. I love it. And I agree with you 100%. But unless they got high AP boosts that I'm not aware of in later levels, or he gets a polymerization. Without polymerization, that team, like all his teams, are good. They're not great without the polymerization.
Yeah,
the Mokuba team is my favorite, honestly. The Mokuba team on second flock.
Yes, yeah.
That's my favorite.
If he can keep that swordsman alive,
that
Z is nasty.
Yeah, that's the most dangerous team. Like, I agree the Kaiba team's good. The Pegasus team is very good.
I agree.
And,
Go ahead, please.
Oh, I was going to say, the Rex team I like. The Weevil team I like. I don't really care for the Bones or the Labyrinth Ruler teams. But I think that was more of a, I've got enough strength in the teams that I picked sort of choice. So,
I gotta say the Weevil team has my heart. I love machines, and putting them on that AP printing machine to kind of make up for the low speed there. I love it. The Pegasus team is great because even if he doesn't get a poly, that team's still solid with how much, just how often they act. I think he's gonna have to play really carefully. But I think, if he steers it just right, maybe gets a little lucky, he's going to be just fine.
Absolutely. So my next question, I guess, for you, Alex, is there any particular mission, or I guess Marshall or anything like that you're worried about?
Mission? I would say there's not really one off the top of my head, but that's, I'm not as familiar with the Kaiba campaign, and especially with the draft, the draft, Christ.
The randomizer.
The randomizer and the patch. But I would say any mission that constrains me on time, I worry about. Because Kaiba's team is very high powered, sure, and Bones' team can be fine. All these teams, especially early game, are going to take a lot of work and a lot of careful play from me, I think. And I'm really going to have to mind my gold well, really going to have to do some smart shopping, and these teams have a lot of potential, but I need to be very careful, especially early. So if I get crunched on time, I think that could put me in a really rough spot because I'm just going to have to start throwing stuff, or really rely on maybe Kaiba or Bones or Pegasus or, something like that. And a lot of that strain could lead to disaster.
That's right. That's right.
And in that, I talked about it earlier, but I think more so than Weevil, I think Weevil will be okay even with the AP, just with the AP from it and the items that you can just slap on him. Because even with the randomization, what's the chance that we don't get a blue or red medicine somewhere? Bones?
Very unlikely, really.
Yeah.
And we didn't ban, by the way, a lot of people wanted to ban Diane Keto, the Cure Master. We shot that down. So, basically, all items are up for grabs, pretty much outside of God items and class change items. Everything's up for grabs. So.
Right. Yeah, my biggest Marshall that I'm worried about is Bones, because that could be that team can be really, really good, or just okay at best. You know,
I think if you make an active attempt to make him good, like you put him out there to gain that little bit of EXP and stuff. Once again, we can't farm EXP, but there's nothing saying that, all right, you're doing it for. And I don't think anybody's going to penalize anybody unless it's blatant, because it was brought up the idea of waiting for respawns is one thing, but respawns happening because you're trying to heal up and you don't want to spend money is something a lot different. So there are probably going to be opportunities to raise a couple extra levels in certain maps. So,
and I think, you know, especially maybe around the time that we get Weevil early, that's going to be, you know, something that could be a pain point on my team later. If, like, you know, we don't do well on fast missions. Well, because this team, you know, because the spread is so methodical, you know, maybe I'll get a few more respawns, not because I'm trying to wait around, but that's just how this is just going to have to go.
Right.
You know, and maybe I'll get a few more respawns and be able to, if I can spread the pain enough, you know, these guys are just going to get leveled up. And a lot of these teams they really explode around level 30. And so if I can navigate it there, I think I'll be in a really good spot.
Yep, absolutely. So my next question, I guess, is what do you think of the rule set for this particular season? And are there any rules or changes you would have personally made? For one example, I had a suggestion of what do you guys do about trades? We didn't implement trades this season, but is there anything that you would have changed about this particular rule set, or something you would have liked to see?
I think for season, I think for the season 2, I think this is fine. I like it a lot. I think I did not vote for trades, or I wouldn't have for this particular season, but in the future I very likely will. You know, as I don't know if we could make a whole season out of a Joey campaign, just because of the nature of it's like half as long. But you know, we do Yugi season, we do Kaiba season, we kind of feel out the rules a little bit, and then, you know, branching out from there as we get like maybe randomized enemy teams, stuff like that. You know, then we can branch out a little bit. But I think for where things are at, and obviously I haven't been here since the start, just as a relatively new person looking in, I think things are good. I think it's good where there's enough challenge. You know, you restrict yourself, but it's not overly debilitating. I think it'll be a good challenge. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So,
excellent. All right. I guess my last one is if you could have one monster that you did not get, whether it was sniped from you or one monster that you just wish you had regardless of draft format, just one monster, whether it's your favorite or something like that, which monster would you have loved to have for this draft?
I have to say Jinzo, actually.
Nice pick.
You know, and you know, I've made a lot of favorite picks on this team, and I think I would have actually probably had to drop maybe Launcher Spider, which is kind of gross to say now because my team's the Louisville Launchers, you know.
Yeah, the Louisville Launchers, yeah.
But you know, it would have been between Launcher Spider and Robotic Knight, and Robotic Knight just gets that AP. He's got, you know, he would just come in clutch and he'd be good on that machine team. And Launcher Spider hits really hard, sure, but he's got about similar AP to Jinzo, but Jinzo's just got that magic. And again, you know, if you know, say Launcher Spider was Jinzo on my Labyrinth Ruler team, and we don't get magic, then it's just about the same. But if we do get magic,
you're looking at the fact that at the end of the day, it's still a viable team regardless, and only bonuses are in your future. And
I wanted Jinzo over something like Machine King because that buff just comes so late, and machines I feel like need the most help late early game.
Unless you get a shock shell.
Unless you get a shock shell.
Then everything gets turned around. See, that was what happened in Season 1. Shock shell was in Mission 2.
Oh my god.
So everyone had access to shock shell early on, and it became very broken. Now, some of the other duelists do not agree with me on this, But I thought Shock Shell became incredibly broken, especially on the fact that I think the balance patch fixed this. But Shock Shell on any enemy marshal, like it could be a Dark Magician, it would still work.
Ooh.
Yeah, I didn't care for that. Because, you know, I was going on the limb of it didn't, like, it was a machine type only item.
Right.
So it couldn't be used. Because I can't attach Hinotoma to a Flame Swordsman, so why should the enemy get to use a Shock Shell on a Dark Magician?
Right.
But, yeah, so in my mind, I thought it was an unfair advantage. But, yeah, Shock Shell was very broken in the last season. So, we'll see what happens this season, of course. Maybe it won't be as apparent.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be interested to see. I don't really, you know, I would lean towards keeping, I think just in a vacuum, I would lean toward keeping enemy items only with equip what they can have, because that already can make things strong enough, you know, like you give an enemy Dark Magician Book of Secret Arts or whatever, or,
that's right,
you know that there's already ways to do that. Now if and again, you know, I've not played through the patch version, you know, maybe this will be easier than I think. I doubt it.
It is a little harder.
Sure. But you know, if we want to have that be the gimmick for a season, like, you know, maybe we lift some restrictions on ourselves. Maybe we let the enemy AI have a little bit of thing, and the whole theme is that it's brutal. Then sure. But as a ground rule, you know, I think I would side with you on this one.
Yeah. I thought it was just a little, not, once again, the same argument I already brought up. So, anyways, that's all the questions I have. So thank you very much for taking part in this interview, Alex. I very much appreciate it. And do you have anything to plug or anything that you want to shout out before we end the interview?
You know, I guess just that while I'm playing, you know, if we're hanging out in Discord, then all that, but I won't, you know, I won't be playing without streaming on Twitch, and my Twitch channel is just twitch.tv/Alix Farron. Then that's it. So, you know, if I'm playing, I'll see you there.
Well, there you go. So, thank you very much to Alex of the Louisville Launchers for taking the time to have this short interview. Like, comment, and subscribe, everybody, and we will see everybody back here for some more FBL content coming very, very soon, I'm sure. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you back here next time. Take care.